Once again, a very short scene, but very dynamic. We hear a scene that could be life-changing. That's what we call conversion. We hear today a scene that if we dig into it, go a little deeper into it, we will find a calling to conversion, to a change of life. I'm pretty sure we all have heard this story before. It's a very dynamic, like I said, many moving parts. We have the pressing crowds. We have Jesus teaching. We have two boats. We have the fishermen coming in, cleaning their nets. And we have Simon, James, and John living the last day of their life as they knew it. So think about the scene. Must have been chaotic. The smell of fish, the water, probably cold. Yet, that's where Jesus manifested himself and called this fisherman. Up until about 10 years ago, I was like those fishermen. And like many of us here today, I used to work very hard and struggle to catch enough fish to make ends meet. Living a very uncertain life, afraid of my future, afraid of how I would provide for my family in the future years. I would cast my nets everywhere, every which way, to no avail. I had heard of Jesus. I had heard his teachings. I believed him. I believed in him. I obeyed his commands as best as one can, being in the world. But one day, after a period of struggles, financial struggles, spiritual struggles, and a lot of worrying, that same Jesus that called Peter, Simon, and John, called me. Sinner old me. He stepped into my boat and began to be the captain of my ship. He didn't hijack my boat. He's a true gentleman. He would never do that. I had to invite him. I had to invite him, verbally invite him, and say, Jesus, please come into my life. Please come into my boat and become the captain, because I'm struggling. The waves are taking me every which way, and I'm not catching anything. While in my boat, he taught me 3 life-changing lessons that I would like to share with you today. I must cast my nets, not just for the purpose of making a living, but for life-giving purposes. Our purpose in life is not to make ends meet. It's to live life to the max, to be the best versions of ourselves, to exude joy, to exude energy, to exude love, and to exude that joy that can only be achieved when I cast the nets where he tells me to cast the nets, not where I want to cast the nets. The second lesson I learned, it's when I give of myself, when I give my time, my talent, my treasure for his cause, I have plenty of fish to share. I don't want to sound like a TV evangelist with the prosperity gospel, but it's true. It's very true. The more we give back of what he's given us, more and more and more fish. Just like the fishermen. They needed 2 boats, they needed some partners, and the generosity of God could never be outdone by ours. And the third one, I am worthy. So are you, and so are you, and you too, looking down, you're worthy. We're all worthy. He made us to his image and likeness. We are worthy of his love. We are worthy of his generosity. He wants us exactly how we are. He wants to accept our invitation that we have for him. He doesn't mind how much we've sinned. He doesn't mind how much we've hated. He's just waiting for that invitation. I still have to go out and fish. I still have a job. I still have bills to pay. But it became secondary in my life. Now I'm more concerned about catching men so that they can live that life of plenitude, of holiness that Jesus is calling us to do. Inviting Jesus to take the steering wheel of our lives is not easy. It's not easy. Today's gospel helps us. We heard at the end, they left everything behind and followed him. What do you have to leave behind to follow him? Only you know that. In the silence of your heart, reflect on that. I don't know what you have to leave behind, but I can tell you what you don't have to leave behind. The Lord is calling you as you are. Whether you're quirky, funny, silly, serious, exactly the way you are. He called the fishermen. They must have been funny, silly, serious, quirky. They were a bunch of misfits. And he called them exactly, he needed them exactly the way they were. And he needs you exactly the way you are to help build his kingdom. Just as the 12 misfits, he calls us today to surrender, to leave everything behind, and to follow him. And he comforts us with the same words that he comforted Peter. Be not afraid. I encourage you today to invite Jesus into your boat. With all your strength, tell him how tired you are. Tell him how afraid you are. Tell him how much fear you have of the future. Let him know. Invite him in. Tell him you would love for him to come into your boat and be the master and captain of your life. Let's become together fisher of men for God. And I assure you, just like in my life, just like the life of the 12 and the life of endless saints that precede us, your life will never be the same.